Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Game Changing Work Show, which typically is with Roxana and Veronica. Well, today we don't have Veronica with us, but we do have Luis Serrano as a special guest, and also I guess you'll have to be a co-host today as well. So, welcome, Luis, and it's so great to have you here. I'm so excited.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so tell us a little bit before we dive into today's theme. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Sure. Yeah. I'm the CFO, the Chief Fun Officer of a company called Fundamentals of Play, and we've gone through a few evolutions, but right now we focus on corporate training, but in a very fun way. So what we do is we teach what we call modern day business skills, so skills that we think are the future of teams, the future of business. So things like empathy and communication, or storytelling, or learning to fail through for innovation. So we have a list of all these modern day skills, and we teach them through the power of play. So we have over 400 different games or activities that we mix and match depending on size of the group or the theme that we're exploring, or now
Mhm.
it's live or virtual. So we have all these different games that we kind of create this experiential play shops, we call
Play shops, and I love it. So first of all, let me put this caption on because hey, that's no coincidence that you're invited today because the theme for today was creating play at work,
them.
which is basically what you do. And I love your. How did you come up with the name of play shops?
Uh,
That easy?
I don't remember, but I think I started like adding play into different common words that I was using, and then that one just stuck, and I had a little bell ringing when I said it, and so yeah, it's been a play shop ever since.
Awesome. So that's a very great name. Okay, so because you mentioned today's business skills, and I do agree, I think empathy is a big one, basically because it's very well connected with emotional intelligence. And whenever I tell anyone who is on their journey of personal professional development, where do you start? You start with emotional intelligence. But how how was it received? Or I don't know. I feel, and I worked in corporate. I remember my days in corporate, specifically in international law firms. But I was lucky to be working in um, organizations that were open to learning, the
Mhm.
learning type of organization, and that provided with that kind of right space and environment for people to fail in, because it's not about failure necessarily, it's about trial and error, and where do we go from here, what can
Mhm.
we do. So what do you find that is maybe harder when you talk to corporate people? Is it easy to get them on board, or how does it go?
Yeah, no, good question. So I mean, the good thing is I was 15 years in corporate, so I know the space, and I a lot of the clients I have are in similar sectors that I was in as well. I was in like marketing and retail, and um, but I guess the one thing that I would say is, at first, I my mission was to change all the organizations that need it the most. So kind
Mhm.
of like the old school mentality, and I was like, I'm going to change them, and it's going to be awesome. What I can tell you then is that they were bad experiences from beginning to end for both sides, probably, just because they were so far on that end and they just didn't get it. And
Mhm.
even if I got them to hire me, they weren't really open to it, and the culture was already set. um,
Yeah.
so that's important work,
Mhm.
but I think it's work for someone else. Like you have to get in there and get the change. now what I focus on are the teams that already do get it in
Okay.
some form or fashion. So they're already like progressive and they already like enjoy, learning, and they're open to things like this. And those are just incredible from start to end. Um,
Hmm.
so it already resonates. Yes, there's always on any team, there's a range of personalities. And I always get the question, what about the introverts or the shy people? Because, they hear these games and they think it's going to be like totally out there. And we have some that are a little more out there, but for the most part, it's our job to get everyone comfortable right off
Yeah.
the bat.
Hmm.
So, doing a whole bunch of setting the stage, making it a safe space up front. I like to share my story. I'm actually a big introvert, yet I created this big play company. So it's not about being all wild and rambunctious. It's about playing the games in your own way and taking away the moments and the ahas that you get from it.
Hmm.
Because that's why we do it. That's why we use play. Um, I mentioned a whole bunch of different reasons why play is important for adults, like creativity and learning and connection. But the main reason is that the way that we show up in play or in games is the same way that we show up in the world.
Yeah.
So the same traits or habits that come out in these games are the same traits or habits that come out in your job or at home.
Hmm.
So it creates this like fun but safe space to discover all of that.
Yeah, exactly. And I do agree. I remember, I mean, some of the best training sessions that I was organizing, because I was organizing them for different teams in the organization I used to work with. And the best ones were where we would have some kind of improv, or typically we would call some trainers who were also actors, and were using some kind of improv exercises and all of that kind of stuff, which was not only fun, but it was, I find that through fun, through play, we get straight to the point, to the heart of the matter, a little bit faster, because we're able to make that analogy between that moment of play or improv and real life and real situations. And that's where, when you said aha moments, I can actually picture those aha moments that also happened during those sessions, because they're so powerful. It
Yeah.
was something like, oh my god, so that's what you do when we work on that project together. That's
Right.
exactly what you do. Or
Yeah.
exactly what I say.
And all it usually takes is like a poignant question or two afterwards to open up a discussion. And
Yeah.
then, people start connecting the dots to what they just experienced to like
Yeah.
their real life or the job. And
Mhm.
you're like, oh,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So, but I love that you mentioned the culture, the right kind of culture, because I do think, and I have to say, I've had some people who were asking me, "Hey, Roxana, you know this kind of stuff. You work with teams, and what can we do to have some fun together as a team? Because we've been working from home, isolated, and we haven't done anything, and now we have to do something." And what I typically say to that is, like, if you feel you have to do that because you haven't done anything else
Hmm.
to to help people connect and communicate, I typically don't think is a good idea to start with a game or to start with play, because people will be so reluctant to that. It's like what you
Hmm.
described in the beginning. It's like,
Yeah.
why? Why? No, we don't play.
Yeah.
We work. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So what do you feel, or and now you know better, the kind of culture that you can offer these play shops that you do, for them to actually have a great impact and to get that return on investment, return on expectations that we're talking about in the corporate world, but that come on based on that right kind of culture. So what do you feel that that would be? What did you see?
Like what is that culture?
Yeah.
Um, it's I've been asked this before, and it's kind of just a feeling, but I know it pretty quickly. Just by like, if you give me a company, I'd go on the website, and I probably just know from the website usually.
Mhm.
But usually by talking with the individuals, things like, if they already like know certain terms, like even like if I say emotional intelligence, if they know what that is, that means they're already like thinking progressively, right? And or some of these skills. If they have no clue what it is, it's usually not a good sign. Other things like if it's a common practice to do these type of learning or growth sessions, or they have like consistent kind of sessions or around play or whatever it is, um, if it's more the norm, and just the way that they speak about the work, you just kind of get a sense. I feel like you fall on the spectrum. Most teams fall on the spectrum of like modern, what I call modern, to the kind of like old school mentality, and then
Yeah.
it's usually pretty apparent where you kind of fall in there.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think, especially because we were used to, we grew up in the culture of industrialism, and okay, that was it. You had to basically fit the mold to be any good.
Yeah,
And now with this digital, and even more than that, it's just the kind of innovative, creative culture that we're trying to design here together, because really that's the reality. We need creativity and innovation so that we can move forward.
yeah.
Things are changing. So okay, so what do you have a favorite game that, I don't know, that you usually do with the teams that you work with?
Totally, yeah. I have a few. I mean, so uh, one that I love to do with huge, like large groups live, is a pretty simple one, but it's so much energy and so impactful. So we basically just do a rock paper scissors tournament, um, but where the loser of each match becomes the raving fan of the winner. So if you can imagine, and then they start accumulating like large groups as they keep winning and facing off. And so by the end of it, I've had groups of 500 people. So if you can imagine, 250 people on each side of this championship round, like going nuts. Um, just the energy and the impact of that, and that I use that as kind of an icebreaker, but it's also like connected to emotional contagion effect and the support that we can give each other around positivity. So it can touch on a whole bunch of different things, like many of our games. um,
Mhm.
but I just enjoy it because every time I'm just like blown away by how much energy can be created in like a matter of minutes. And so is everyone else. They're usually astonished at like, oh, what just happened?
And that's the power of it, isn't it? Because it
Hmm.
creates the kind of energy that it's easy to forget about. I mean, when you're involved in everything that you're doing and so focused on the work, it's easy to forget that you can get that kind of energy. Or even if you have a similar energy when you work together, you don't really pay attention to it.
Totally. I mean, my favorite thing about everything I do is just seeing, like, I literally see like walls come down. Like sometimes I even picture the walls
Hmm.
because, yeah, at first, sometimes there's like skeptical people or people hesitant to, what are we doing? Um, but 98% of the time, it's those people that are the most reserved that by the end of it, they're like, ah! and they're like, and I can like literally see those walls come down. And then like I love just experiencing or hearing comments of like, we have this one other game, it's a connection based game where we do these 3 rounds. You're just having a conversation with a partner, um,
Hmm.
but there's specific instructions in each round. So at first you start with a very common question that you probably do in the office every day, like how's the weather or how's your weekend, right? And you just, that's where it ends. You respond and it ends. Round two, we do the same thing, but you're responsible for filling in 2 minutes with more and more questions. And we call it Ask Hole. It's my favorite title game because you don't have to wait for them to interrupt. Uh,
Okay.
So you can keep asking questions and questions based on your curiosity. Um, and they start with the same question. And then round three, they do the same thing, but they start with a better question. We usually give it to them. So maybe it's something like, what lights you up in this world? Or what are you
Mhm.
passionate about? And the amount of comments or feedback just from that one game, because people come like after 4 minutes, we played for 4 minutes, they're like, I can't believe how much I just learned about this person and I've worked with them for
Yeah.
25 years, right? And it
Hmm.
just shows them the power of like having these conversations and being more human with each other, and the power of questions, right? And all of that is packed into like 4 minutes, and we could debrief it for hours, but the impact of doing things like this is usually eye-opening for most people.
Yeah, I bet it is. And I think especially because you know that, and that's why you need the kind of culture to allow the space and time for it. Because what you basically do with this game, for instance, you create the time and space for that conversation to take place. And it's wonderful because we're not used to doing that. And we know in that particular game, hey, when I ask a question, I have to actually listen to what the other person is answering back. And so I get interested because that is the activity that I need to do. Because typically, when we ask the question, how was your weekend? We're not really interested in the answer.
Right.
It's just
Usually
like,
they're already walking away.
yeah.
Yeah.
What this game does is, hey, you know what? Here we are in this conversation together, and we're focusing on this. And that's what creates the kind of connection because we get to care, and we because we care about that, we actually hear what's being said rather
Yeah.
than
Yeah. But I think that the whole thing is like that people usually realize like that it's easy to do, like, and they do have the time, like, I mean, we did this in 2 minutes. You have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, wherever, in lunch or whatever, you can do this. It's more about like creating the space, as you said, like for the allowance of it, and
Mhm.
making it more of a norm in the culture.
Yeah.
um, and so, yeah, that's where that spectrum falls in. But so that's why I help, like, I'd say I help like anyone in the middle to the far end, and then I just help them move further along, um,
Hmm.
which I think is great.
Do you have any favorite game for virtual teams that you're using? Because I'm sure a lot of people would be interested in this particular one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we have so many now. We've created a bunch. One that we're doing quite a bit now for, we have an all play session, and we're doing a holiday one. Um, we we do like a virtual rock band. So this one is just about like fun and connection and coming together.
Sounds like it.
But we use different songs, and then we get everyone to get props and set up like look like a rock star, and you'll be amazed at what people have lying around. I've seen like feather boas and wigs. And then they'll choose an instrument. So we have different instruments that they choose virtually, and then we play the song, and then everyone turns off the screen, and then everyone introduces or turns on their screen as their instrument is introduced in the song. So
Hmm.
pretend the piano starts, and the piano players come on and they start playing their piano. Some people have like fake pianos or whatever. Then the guitars come in, then the singers, then the drummers, and so it comes together as this like hilarious and beautiful collage of like a team coming together as a rock
Oh
band.
my
And then
God,
we'll
yeah.
record it and we'll send it to them, and it's like this 4 minutes of hilarity that they can rewatch over and over. I've been told some teams watch it like 10 times, or they watch it on the big screen in the meeting. And it's always a big highlight. So that one's always fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and we've developed a whole bunch. We do another one like a reverse charades, where if you know traditional charades, you have one guesser and
Hmm.
multiple. No, sorry, one actor and multiple guessers.
Yeah.
So here it's the opposite. So we have one guesser, at least at a time, and multiple people acting different actions. So we'll feed them different actions through like the chat, and then
Hmm.
the guesser is trying to guess a whole bunch of guesses or a whole bunch of actions in a row. And we use that for communication skills. So we talk about nonverbal and body language. We talk about empathy because we make it progressively more difficult. And you're going to
Yeah.
feel empathy for the people that get really stuck, right? So there's like so much that you can distill from any of these, and depending on what we want to focus on, that's kind of where we lead the discussion.
Yeah, no, that sounds absolutely fascinating. And I think it's also when you talk about, especially now in where teams are far apart from each other, I can see how this stands for a lot of the water cooler conversations or coffees together or just a night out in town. And it just stands for all of these in one game, and probably that is why they keep watching it, right? And it's also, as you were saying, that I think it's also about creating great memories together,
Yeah,
which brings us even closer together.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So thank you so much for sharing some ideas of how you can have play at work. I think we do spend, a lot of our time, yeah, of a lot of our lifetime working. So we might as well enjoy it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, work doesn't have to be something. I mean, yes, it's serious. When we work, we're serious and we're good at what we do, and we high perform and we do things right. But for us to be able to do things right, we need to be working well together.
totally.
And play just brings that kind of collaboration and
And
communication.
can I add one more thing?
Sure.
I think like and playing like the structured games that we do are awesome and fun, and I love to do them. But sometimes, like if you're in the on the team and you're not a play expert or you don't know these games, it's a lot of pressure to like come up with games or play.
Mhm.
But if you think of play in that sense, you're kind of like stuck. I like to think anything can be kind of gamified, uh, and so anything that you're already doing,
Mhm.
or something that you're working on. So that's what we also help teams do. So here's an example. So one of the things that we talk about in one of our sessions is how complaining is one of the biggest mindset traps in that can lead to a toxic culture or to like
Mhm.
a negative culture, right? And it kind of like spreads. So we talk about like having this complaint vacation for the team where you have like this open culture of where you call each other out when you hear other people complaining, but how to do it to make it fun, right? You don't want to be
Yeah.
like complain. So like I've had a few teams that have done this and they've loved it. So they make it like a game. So they like create like a code word. So maybe it's like banana pants, okay?
Mhm.
Um, and then whenever they hear someone else on another team complaining, or it could be on your internal team, they'll call them out by saying banana pants. Even in meetings, they'll point across the desk and be banana pants, right? And then they have like a board for banana pants on the teams, and then they're accumulating like these bananas, and the teams that have the most, and then they get shamed or whatever it is. But it's like a fun, creative way to actually create change on the team, right? You're
Yeah.
reducing complaining, you're creating more of a team and a positive mindset. So
Oh,
things
wow.
like that.
This sounds like so much fun, and I actually gave me an idea. I think we should team up for whenever I do a feedback workshop, because feedback. I mean, everybody like when you hear the word feedback, especially in a corporate environment, they
Mm,
cringe.
it makes
It's
me
like,
cringe.
oh,
Yeah,
feedback. That's nasty.
yeah,
But feedback doesn't have to be nasty. And there's good feedback. There's bad feedback. There's good ways. There's great ways in which you can give feedback, and that's one of them. So, yeah, that sounds great.
yeah.
Um, okay, we need to wrap up. So, I wanted to let you do some promo for your fundamentals of play.
Sure. So, I mean, we do, as I mentioned, these corporate sessions. So, whether it be a retreat or a social, or now, we're doing a lot of virtual things. We're packed this week with holiday parties. Any of that, or if you're just looking for a team building development session that's going to be super fun, we're probably a good option for you. So you can check us out on fundamentalsofplay.ca. You'll then see links to our team building sessions and our virtual team building sessions, which is probably more relevant. And then at the bottom, you'll see all our themes, and you can contact us, and we can kind of go from there.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I know that you're the right option, not probably. Okay, so for me, I have 12 days of Christmas, and today is day 8. So stay tuned on this space wherever you're watching this, because there's more freebies and giveaways coming for you. For your personal and professional development. Why not? I mean, when you think about freebies and giveaways, it doesn't have to be a mug or a pen. It can be something related to your personal and professional development. So yesterday it was a free 1 month free membership in the Lead for Legacy League, the management and leadership development group. So today is going to be a surprise. So stay tuned. Okay, and so thank you so much, Luis, for being here with us today. And thank you, everybody, for watching the show. And if you want to get in touch with Luis, definitely check his website. Other than that, come back on Friday because we do have another amazing, amazing special guest for you. And we're going to talk about how the family at work is important and why that is, and why you need to create your family at work so that you are productive, engaged, and motivated. Okay. Have a great one. Bye bye.
Bye bye.